everything you need to maximize your recovery for your performance, but also my top 10 tips, both research backed as well as from a practical point of view, tips that I've seen that have worked in the AFL system with AFL athletes that are super effective and aren't costly. So you'll be able to, whether you're a community-based footballer, or you're a youth athlete, senior athlete, wherever you're playing your Australian rules football, you'll be able to follow these tips. So if you have any questions and you're tuning in via our YouTube channel, Facebook page, LinkedIn, Twitter, wherever you are, hit the comment section below. And to watch all our live interviews, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We've also got a playlist on every different type of exercise that you can do to improve your football performance. But let's get straight into it. Before we start on my top 10 tips, and you're definitely going to want to stick around, number 10 is probably the most important. We're going to focus on what is recovery. All right, so it's really important. It might sound simple. Recovery is, starts as soon as you finish your workout, and it's everything you do until your next workout. And to a certain degree, it's true. But in your recovery, just like with your training program, you want to have a focus, and that should depend on whether you're in off season, you're in pre-season, or in season. Just like when we're prescribing as a strength and conditioning coach, our gym prescription and our conditioning, we're thinking of the stimulus that we're trying to elicit to the athletes to get that adaptation that we're trying to look for on-field performance. So, i.e., are we trying to improve someone's acceleration so they can have that breakaway speed from a stoppage? The same process should be thinking when you're doing your recovery. Okay, so if you're focusing on getting to sleep earlier and improving your sleep quality, are you doing that to maximize the workout that you did that day for muscle growth? Are you doing that to prepare for your next main training session, your game day? Okay, so think of the purpose in mind, and that should guide, and hopefully today's presentation and I inform you all the information you know on how to make the right decisions for what your body's telling you, number one, but also what's upcoming in your schedule. Okay, so recovery should aid your upcoming schedule. What do you next need to do from a performance point of view? So ultimately, we're thinking workout, it's a stress, a demand on the body to get better. Okay, but we don't get better when we're working out from a physiological point of view. We put demand and load on the body. From there, our lifestyle dictates our recovery, i.e., how you sleep, how you eat, how you think will influence how well your body responds to that workout. Okay, so you could do the same workout every day, and depending on how you live your lifestyle will depend on how you recover and how you adapt to that program. That can be the difference between that program resulting in increased muscle mass, increased strength, increased power, increased fitness, whatever you're trying to achieve in that workout. If you eat poorly, don't sleep, only sleep 4 hours, and are stressed on the upcoming homework assignments or whatever you've got going on, that can be the difference between feeling sore, feeling fatigued, and having an injury. And if you do the same workout and now you're eating healthy foods, you're getting your adequate amount of sleep and high quality sleep, and it's a sleep routine for you, and you're coping with your amount of emotional, mental stress, that can be the adaptation can be those benefits that we talked about. The desired outcome of what we want to get out of that workout is true from an adaptation point of view because of the lifestyle, i.e. the recovery that we put on the body. Okay, so it's a recipe. We can't have one without the other for long-term sustainable success. You can't just keep driving your body into the ground and not putting in. You need to make sure you're working out, but you're also working in, and that's critical to understand. Okay, so you need to have purpose with your training, but you also need to have purpose with your recovery. All right, so that's number one that I just wanted to cover that off. Next bit I wanted to talk about, we're living in a data-driven world, and I'm a strong believer in what you measure, you improve. All right, so for example, if someone wants to lose weight and they use the scales as their measure to see how they're tracking. So let's say they want to lose 10 kilos in 10 weeks, and once a week they jump on the scales. They replicate the environment as best they can, i.e., from a reliable point of view, you're stepping on the scales first thing in the morning, every Friday morning, once a week for 10 weeks. And if you're doing a training program that's specific on weight loss and you're living a lifestyle that's conducive to adapting to that program, i.e. you're sleeping well, you're looking after yourself from a mental, emotional point of view, you're coping with your stress, and you're eating the right foods for weight loss, then you should see an incremental gain i.e., loss in your body mass over time. All right? And hopefully you hit your 10 kilos over your 10 weeks or whatever your goal might be. All right. So the scales is the measure of success, but what you do with the process is what gets you there. Same thing for recovery. We need to have something that we can hold to see if what we're doing is effective. Otherwise, we're just guessing. All right. And for human beings, we are super dynamic. We're super individual. Everyone's got different genetic makeup. You've got a different environment, different upbringing, that how you live your life. So how your perception on how you see things and how your body responds to different types of stresses is unique to you. So everyone needs to have their own understanding on how to best recover from the different types of workouts that you're doing and the upcoming schedule that you've got. So if you're in pre-season, and right now it's February in pre-season, so most Australian rules footballers, you're going through your biggest weeks of training for the year, or you should be, to elicit aerobic benefits as well as speed, power, and you'll be doing just some strength training as well. So we're putting a huge amount of load and huge amount of stress on the body. Some are going to break down and not be able to handle that load. All right, maybe because they're overworking, but equally probably because they're under recovered. Okay, so if we look at what Australian rules footballers do compared to other athletes, the body can handle a huge amount of load. All right, i.e., looking at what ultra marathons can achieve over a period of time. All right, so we know that we can handle high running loads. But we need to make sure we're allowing the body to recover from that stress, and that's where the recovery is really, really important. All right, so if you're putting in the work and you're not seeing the benefits that you think you should, perhaps you need to keep up the hard work, but focus on working hard on your recovery. The data that we can use to measure our improved aerobic fitness is heart rate variability, all right, which is basically just measuring the beat between our heartbeats. The heart doesn't beat like a metronome, as most of us might think. It's actually quite irregular, and there's a huge amount of variance within our heartbeat on any given day. And we can see how our body's responding to life stresses, including training, and the food that we eat. If you eat an inflammatory food, you'll have a response to that. If you don't sleep well, you'll have a response to that. So your body is constantly adapting to what you're providing it. And heart rate variability, science shows, is the best objective measure to monitor your freshness or how well you're feeling to perform, but also your recovered state and how you're responding to the training program and the lifestyle that you're living. So over time, just like it's good to have a low resting heart rate for an athlete to show that they're cardiovascular fit and they're aerobically where we need to be to perform at a highest level, they're nice and efficient. We want to also see our heart rate variability actually go up over time. And that's a good sign. If your lowering resting heart rate over years is low and you've got a high heart rate variability, you're in really good state of health, but also aerobic fitness. Okay, so an athlete that is in a good state of aerobic fitness will be able to handle more training, more competitive and high intensity training over time, will ultimately reach your potential as a high performing athlete. Okay, so it's really, really important. And you can use heart rate variability. I've used Elite Heart HRV. It costs $150 for a core sense, and it just monitored 2 minutes in the morning. That's much better than things like your Garmin watch, where they do give you a stress reading and they give you a heart rate HRV score, heart rate variability score. However, these watches, when you wear them, they're monitoring it at random. Okay, so you might be one night you might sleep on your side, you might sleep on your back. That can change your HRV score. So it's super sensitive. So we want to make sure we've got consistency. Just like I mentioned with the person trying to lose weight, they do it on an empty stomach first thing in the morning every Friday, so same day of the week. Same with our heart rate variability. We want to do it for 2 minutes, which is a good amount that the researcher shows is reliable for effective data. 2 minutes first thing in the morning before you have your coffee or you do any workout. So it's consistent every day, and over a month you'll start to recognize a baseline HRV score, and then you can see, are you in an under recovered state? Is your body still recovering from the previous workout? Lifestyle changes that you're making, maybe you're following a diet, how's that affecting your HRV? So it's quite intuitive, but also, which I'll talk about a little bit later, really builds strong awareness on what's working well for you. And as I mentioned, we're all different. So it's really important to have that objective measure. Makes your life a lot easier, particularly for those that aren't aware on how their nutrition's impacting their performance, how their sleep, habits, how they're training, different types of training program. Maybe you just started a different type of running program, so we can monitor how your body's responding and then make smart decisions on whether it's the best program or best lifestyle change for you. All right, so let's get into my top 10 tips for performance recovery, and you can apply this to your football schedule straight away. So let's get straight into it. Number one, you need, and you'll probably hear this over and over again. I've done presentations on this part, but sleep is number one. Okay, so before we do anything else, make sure that you're spending and you're doing your research, you're practicing things to fine tune your routine. There's elite athletes all around the world that have had sustainable success over a long period of time, that are huge on their sleep, not just sleeping at night, but also adding in power naps. Okay, so highly recommend do some research on sleep, and not just quantity, but more importantly, your quality of sleep. How can we improve your quality of sleep and build a routine that is consistent for you? I.e., you have a wind down period that is the same every time. That deliberately puts you in a relaxed state to help maximize the time it takes you as soon as you hit the bed to get to sleep, the quality of sleep, so you're not restless throughout the night, waking up throughout the night. You're getting into that deep sleep, and that's when we're most anabolic, is when you're getting into that deep sleep state. So you want to make sure that you're maximizing your hours in that state. As we know, with our circadian rhythm, nighttime is the best time to do that. As soon as the sun is set, is our best time to be able to sleep until the sun rises. Is the opposite. Our hormones start to rise in cortisone, and we get that energy to get after our day. The opposite is true at nighttime, is where our body should be starting to wind down, so we can adapt from the stresses we put on the body that day. Okay, so number one, sleep. And I highly recommend doing some research. If you look up on YouTube, I did a sleep presentation last year on some things that you can do to improve your sleep quality. Coping strategies with mental and emotional stress. This can wreak havoc if you don't have appropriate coping strategies on how to manage stressful situations, and that's going to happen. Stress is going to be at you, whether it be poor performance on the football field, or it might be not relevant with football at all. It could be just assignments that are due at uni, at school. Could be your work that you're doing, financial stress, whatever it might be. You're going to have those stresses. So you need to be able to have the coping strategies to be able to not have a spike in heart rate, cortisol, blood pressure. We need to be able to cope with those stresses and be able to respond accordingly and be able to get on top of it as soon as possible. If it lingers, that's when we start to see a negative effect on your HRV. So coping strategies around stress, make sure you look into that. Nutrition, so make sure you're getting adequate calories, you're hydrating yourself. You're getting plenty of nutrient-dense, colorful foods, and you're periodizing your carbohydrates and protein depending on the program that you're following. So if you know you've got a big training day ahead, make sure you're getting in plenty of complex carbohydrates. If you're trying to gain muscle mass, make sure you're getting enough protein in over the course of your day, not just in big slumps. So having a routine nutrition plan, your times where you meal plan, what you're going to eat the next day, you're prepared, you've got your drink bottle, you've set up all these habits that ensure that you're getting in quality food and you're staying well hydrated. Because when we don't, our body is stressed and we're not adapting to the best of our ability from your training program. Like I mentioned, everyone can be doing the same program, but it's how your body responds to that program that can make the difference. So your lifestyle will influence your recovery state. That will influence your adaptation. Number 4, what we measure, we improve, as I mentioned before. So make sure you have some form of measuring your heart rate variability, or you subjectively have a diary that you answer in at the start of the day or at the end of the day on how you're feeling. The body has a huge amount of intelligence, and generally our heart rate variability score and how you're feeling marry up over time, especially those that really pay attention to how they're eating, what they're doing, and how that affects them. So have some form of measuring and how you're tracking. Number 5, meditate. So these ones are more just ways that you can do to improve your heart rate variability, or improve your ability to cope with your training program and life outside of training program. So meditation, number 1, for mental health, but also for your ability to concentrate and focus at your training. So meditation, mindfulness would come under that. Massage, there's not a lot of strong evidence to prove what massage does other than just promoting blood flow, but subjectively, athletes at the highest level absolutely love it and do it frequently throughout the week. So if you haven't had a sports tissue massage from a recommended masseuse, highly recommend start doing that. And maybe you get that in your weekly routine. You plan Saturday and you do it 2 days post on a Monday morning before you get back into training, and see how it feels for your ability to train. Um, Sauna, another one that there is research in saunas, and if you're interested, I've done a blog post on my website on some strong research, particularly in improving your ability to handle higher endurance training. So getting to that parasympathetic state for someone who's training, handling high training loads, improving your sleep quality. So subjectively, athletes have improved their sleep quality when they're using saunas. So there is research to suggest that saunas do work. A lot of it is subjective, as it's quite hard to measure with elite athletes. But I've added some research papers on saunas. So if you're interested in that blog post, hit us up on our social media and I'll post you that link. Ice baths are fantastic for reducing inflammation. So if you play a contact sport like football and it was super combative, you bruise, you got corkies, or and your body's just beat up from collision, I would recommend ice bath as an effective way just to reduce that swelling that's in the body. Equally, just from a freshness point of view, from a neural point of view, contrast. So going from hot environment to cold environment is really good for improving your energy and your freshness for the next game. Number 9, active recovery. We can't replace movement. So to promote blood flow, one of the best things we can do is by using our muscles. So doing low-level exercise like yoga, Pilates, going for a walk, a light jog, bike ride, anything that's talking pace intensity. It's not strenuous. You should leave those sessions feeling better than when you started. That is active recovery. And out of all the things that you can invest in for your recovery, I still think active recovery is the most effective for athletes. Really move through range of motion, restore that range that you've lost from the game and from that hard demanding training session. Number 10, and this is probably the most important out of them all, is having the awareness and paying attention to how your body is feeling. What's your joint health like? Have you got a niggly knee? What's your sleep like? Are you keeping up at night, worrying about something? That goes into your mental health. So maybe your stress is what's holding you back. Is it your nutrition? Are you eating, fueling for your training sessions enough? Are you thinking about that? Have you changed something that maybe your body's not agreeing with and your gut health is off? What is your sleep quality like? Okay, so these are the things you should be asking yourself regularly if you want to maximize your recovery, and pay attention to what's working, because your body will be telling you, whether you're ignoring it or you're aware of it or not. It will be giving you signals. Okay, and more often than not, when we reflect back on a poor performance or an injury, there's some clues along the way that you can note down and prevent from happening going forward. All right, so learn from your experience. That's it. I hope you enjoyed this performance recovery presentation. In terms of the upcoming podcast, we've got Vaughan Stewart, who's our head strength and conditioning coach, looking after the Caulfield Grammarians men's program for 2023. So that podcast will be released on Wednesday. Make sure to tune in on that. Thursday at 10:30 a.m. we have the head of sports science at Collingwood Football Club, Billy Hewlin. He will be on our podcast talking about all things sports science. So if you're interested in how sports science works in an AFL club, Billy's got an extensive background in elite sport. So really looking forward to catching up with Billy. Thursday, I'll be talking about why strength and conditioning coaches must embrace messiness both in the gym and on the field to help athletes with high performance. So it's not all about perfect technique. We need to make sure we're exposing athletes to, at least like what JP, when I did a few sessions with him, 30% messiness is good, particularly when we're working on that motor control, coordinative based movements. We want it to be challenging, and we want to be constantly evolving and progressing and pushing the athlete. So we'll be presenting at that. That'll be at 12 o'clock on Thursday, which is our normal slot for weekly updates. So you can catch that on YouTube. And then our Friday Bite Size is with Harry Sharp, the Brisbane Lions elite running midfielder. So make sure to catch up with him. It was just around the time he got drafted and broke that time trial, draft, combine, 2K time trial, personal best, as well as talking about his journey as Australian rules footballer. So make sure to catch that bite-sized episode. If you like it, you can look up Harry Sharp in Spotify or iTunes, wherever you listen to podcasts, for our full interview. Power tip, really interested, and I tweeted this one recently. I'd love to hear if you're a strength and conditioning coach, high performance coach, sports science whatever you're doing as an S&C, how do you define success? Is it your testing scores with your athletes or coaches, athletes that you're working with, i.e., like improvement in back squats, 2K time trials? Is it injury rates, so the squad and particularly the soft tissue injuries? Is it how much you're earning on your salary? Is it the job title that you've got? Is it the qualifications that you've achieved, or is it the level of athlete that you're working with? So I'd love to hear from you on Twitter. Search for Prepare Like a Pro and comment in the Twitter thread. I'd love to hear from coaches on how they evaluate their success over their career. And then my promo, I'm absolutely loving Athletes Authority's new segment this year where they alternate, I believe they do, one episode with Lachlan Wilmot from a coaching point of view, coaching arm of their business, and then another one with Carl talking about more the financial and marketing and how to manage a business point of view. So I'm loving that aspect that AA are providing to their listeners this year, and it's the first on my list to listen to, both those two when they upload. So great job with their podcast. If you haven't checked out Athletes Authority, make sure to check them out. There's a lot of great high performance content in there, and they're one of the best gyms in Australia for the private sector working with athletes. And for our Academy members, our next Get Better Plan episode is on Thursday, the 23rd of February. I'll be talking about every step that I take from booking in a podcast guest through to marketing it to publishing it. So every step, I'm going to share my screen. So make sure to catch up for our monthly coaching call where I'll answer all your questions as well, but I'll be presenting on my systems on how I turn a podcast episode into YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, TikToks, a blog post, how to rank in certain keywords. So talking about all the processes and how we use the podcast to help educate the community, but also to help marketing what we do at Prepare Like a Pro. So sharing that content, because a lot of the coaches on our academy also have their own side hustle and are interested in learning effective strategies to promote their business. So and more importantly, creating content that works for you and is sustainable and something you can consistently do. So if that interests you, it only costs $20 a month to sign up for Academy. Every presentation and recording I've done over the years, including workshops and special guests that we've had and that we're going to have in the future, all live in the Academy. So it's a membership site. Check it out. I'm more than happy to give a 30-day free trial as well. If you just email me at jack@preparelikeapro.com and just ask for a coupon code, I'll email that back to you and you can get a taste of what it's like inside of our academy. There's a coaching 30-day launch your own business course as well to follow. Thank you, and I'm looking forward to next week's episode with Billy Hewlin. Make sure to tune in. That'll be 10:30 a.m. on Thursday, and my weekly update will be at 12 o'clock. So I'll see you guys then. Thanks for tuning in.